Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, where I talk about vampires, werewolves, and other supernatural creatures. Recently I've covered the strongest movie vampires, strongest TV vampires, and now we are here, the strongest animated vampires. These vampires are truly on a whole other level of power compared to the others. Also, I hope you guys have been enjoying some of the shorter videos that I've been uploading. They're fun for me to make while I'm writing and doing research for these longer videos. With that out of the way, let's get into the top 5 strongest vampires in animated series. Number 5 is Stas Charlie Blood, a fan favorite character in the anime and manga series Blood Lad. He is the vampire boss of the Eastern District of Demon World, and he is known for his laid-back personality and love of all things human, especially video games and manga. Stas is of noble vampire lineage. As the boss of the Eastern District, Stas has inherited a vast amount of power and influence. His father was the king of the surreal demon world before he got killed by a werewolf. He is feared and respected by many, but he prefers to spend his days lounging around and playing video games. This show has a bit of a comedic approach. Despite his attitude, Stas is a formidable fighter and has proven himself to be a powerful ally and enemy. One of the most interesting aspects of Stas' character is his love for human culture. He is fascinated by everything from Japanese pop music to American movies, and he often incorporates elements of human culture into his demon world. He has a little Goku, and when he's fighting, sometimes it seems like he's trying to emulate characters from Dragon Ball Z. Stas has an older brother, Braz. Braz recognized his brother's strength and trained him, but he realized he forced his powers to awaken at a very young age. Stas' young body was not able to deal with such strong powers without damaging him in the process. Using his powers in excess would cause nosebleeds and fainting, so he's like 11 from Stranger Things. To stop this, his brother shot him with a magical bullet that would suppress his powers until he could handle them. As a child, he could compress a boulder 5 meters in diameter into the size of a pebble. Even with his powers weakened, Stas was still a powerful demon easily able to protect his territory. Stas is not your typical vampire. In addition to the traditional vampire abilities of immortality, strength, and speed, Stas also has a number of magical abilities that set him apart from the other vampires in this series. He can manifest his magic in a physical form. This form is a giant hand with circles on it. He can use this in various ways, like attacking or even transporting by riding it. Stas is also able to attack enemies from a distance by extending his magical energy from his body. He can use this to directly hurt his opponents or use it to affect the environment around him, such as making huge explosions of energy from the ground. He has the ability to summon what seems like this massive energy and can use it however he wants. He has used the ability to extend his magic and grab an opponent's heart and crush it in their body. Stas can also use his demonic magic to enhance his physical abilities. While doing this, he was able to basically body check someone through several buildings and they end up on the outskirts of the town. You can start to see why anime vampires needed to be in their own category. Stas can bite someone and leave his fangs in a person's neck and it will siphon power from them to Stas. Aside from his great offensive abilities, Stas also has great healing abilities. Most wounds like deep cuts, powerful punches from supernaturals, and bullets heal instantly. Stas only has one weakness, which is always a positive for vampires because I think weaknesses should be factored into overall strength. His only weakness is silver. When harmed by silver, it affects his healing abilities, making it possible to kill him. One strange thing that Stas does is while he's in the mortal world, he carries around a spray bottle filled with his saliva. This allows him to control people without biting them. He just sprays them with his spit bottle and then he can compel them, which is pretty useful. Stas is strong enough to send someone crashing through several buildings, crush your heart with magic, and has great healing abilities. Plus he only has one weakness, so I think Stas definitely deserves this spot. The number 4 spot is Vlad Dracula Tepesh from the Castlevania Netflix series. Dracula was not the first vampire, which I found interesting. He is the strongest though. Through his power, he became the leader of all vampires, a king of sorts. He had a reputation for brutality and would impale whole armies or villages on pikes if they wronged him. This is definitely one of the strongest iterations of Dracula. His raw strength, speed, and magical abilities are unrivaled by any other vampire in the Castlevania series. His son Alucard is very strong and able to easily defeat pretty much all other vampires. But Dracula proves too much for even him, Cypher the Mage, and Trevor Belmont all at the same time. He is only ultimately defeated because he lets himself die. The limits of Dracula's physical strength is unknown. He is seen able to overpower every other supernatural creature, but never does any specific feat that displays how much he could lift or destroy with his bare hands. Probably because he prefers to use his magic. As for speed, we see he moves so fast it's pretty much instantaneous. His son Alucard is the second fastest vampire in the series by a large margin, and probably the strongest and fastest in the video games. Yet in the show, Dracula was able to quite literally toy with Alucard even though he hadn't fed in months. He can also fly effortlessly, so he has very good mobility. Dracula is so powerful that he is able to call on demons and they obey without question. But like I said in my other ranking video, I try to stay away from judging vampires' followers and judge them as if they were fighting alone. Aside from his speed, his magical abilities are possibly his best form of attack. His powerful magic is a result of his extremely long life and his vast knowledge that he's gathered. Dracula can astral project himself anywhere through different methods. We see him appear as fire and a mass of bats. He also has some control over the elements. I'm not sure if it was all his magic or if he was assisted by the mirror, but he was able to make it rain blood on Targo Vista, then causes thunderstorms, meteors, tornadoes, and more fire. He also creates a ball of lava, and it took Cypher, Trevor, and Alucard to stop it. His knowledge of magic spans centuries, so he probably has endless spells at his disposal. Dracula can put out some serious damage, but he can also take some serious damage. He was able to kill every human in an entire city alone and fought for an entire night. A punch from a very strong Trevor Belmont was like he punched a brick wall. Dracula didn't move a millimeter, like he's an immovable object. He gets his legs impaled and then hit by a special, powerful weapon called the Morning Star, wielded by the Belmonts. This weapon usually makes vampires explode on contact, but to Dracula, it does nothing, and he recovers within a few seconds. Even a very strong magical attack from himself, deflected back, causing a massive explosion, did almost nothing. It seems like his body is nearly indestructible. They don't even try to decapitate him until he's already been staked, because unless he's extremely wounded or basically already dead, it probably wouldn't work. Due to Dracula's sheer strength, most vampire weaknesses have no effect on him. He laughed at the notion of silver, garlic, and crosses. He can walk in sunlight too, so the only way to kill Dracula is a stake to the heart. And you also have to burn his remains or else he can be resurrected. On top of all of Dracula's feats, he is possibly one of the most intelligent vampires on this list, which can definitely come in handy during a fight. He has collected centuries of knowledge and dedicated himself to the studies of magic, science, and almost everything else. Alucard states that if his father is killed, an unmeasurable amount of knowledge will be lost with him. He was able to interlace his castle with scientific and magical feats. By using a special object, he could teleport it anywhere.
Behold the world!
The number 3 spot goes to Dio Brando from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This was a show I'd never watched before making this video, but I was pleasantly surprised. Dio is pretty similar to the other vampires on the list, but he has a few special abilities that really set him apart. This was one of the first characters I started researching and made me decide that I need to separate live action and animated vampires because the anime power scaling be crazy. Vampires in this show are very strong. Dio was able to lift a steamroller over his head and then jump into the air like it was nothing. They are also very fast. Maybe not as fast as some of the other vampires on this list, but Dio has something else that makes up for it, which I will get to soon. These vampires have advanced senses, levitation or flight, and something called Space Ripper Stingy Eyes. This allows the vampire to shoot 2 pressurized fluid streams from the eyes strong enough to cut through stone. They also have an ability called Fusion. This allows them to create animal-human-zombie hybrids as pets. In the anime, Dio also has the ability to teleport. He fades into darkness and can instantly reappear anywhere. Dio is nearly indestructible and can survive after important body parts are amputated. He can also regrow his limbs and reattach them if they're in good enough condition. Vampires can still die if their head is sufficiently damaged though. They can also be killed by sunlight, but they're not weak to religious objects or garlic, so you basically need to get him in the sun or destroy his head. These vampires must feed on blood. Big surprise, right? However, these vampires feed in a very different way. They don't use their fangs. They actually jam their fingers into the victim and absorb their blood that way. Dio's biggest strength is the ability to use his stands. Vampires or humans with strong spiritual power can generate something called a stand. This is an entity generated by its owner, referred to as a stand user. It's usually a humanoid figure hovering around or near the person, and it has supernatural abilities much stronger than that of any human. Depending on the stand user, they can be wielded for good or evil. Dio is one of the only characters to hold 2 stands at one time. Dio's main stand is called the World, which can inflict heavy melee damage. It also has another ability. It can stop time. At first, he could only stop time for a few seconds, but eventually he can do it for much longer. He uses this to attack people when they're vulnerable, or to teleport around instantaneously. He is eventually defeated, but if he wasn't, these abilities would have developed even further, and he would have been almost unstoppable. His other stand is Jonathan Joestar's stand. This one allows him to have precognitive abilities like a Jedi, and some limited ability to see the future like divination. Dio was already one of the strongest characters in his respective series even before he was using the stands. So when an already very strong vampire can stop time, have precognition, and a partner to fight with, who could be stronger than that? The number 2 spot is a half vampire, D from Vampire Hunter D, a series of novels, manga, and anime set in a post-apocalyptic world where vampires, demons, and other supernatural creatures exist. D is a unique character in that he is a half vampire, the result of a union between a human woman and a vampire noble. He was born in the Sacred Ancestors Research Facility, where many of these experiments occurred. D is a result of the Sacred Ancestor, also known as Dracula, trying to create a perfect vampire. It's strongly implied that Dracula may be D's father, which would explain his heightened abilities even among vampires. As a result of being half vampire, he possesses a number of abilities, such as superhuman strength, speed, and healing. However, he also has the ability to walk in daylight and does not have the traditional weaknesses of vampires such as holy water, crosses, or garlic. D became a vampire hunter as a way to atone for his vampire heritage and use his abilities for good. He is known for his exceptional fighting skills and his ability to track and defeat even the most powerful vampires. Although D looks to be around 19 years of age, he is said to be around 5,000 years of age. But he once recognized an attack that hadn't been performed in 10,000 years, so his exact age is a mystery. One of D's most notable abilities is his left hand. It's some kind of spirit or symbiotic being that lives in his hand. D can usually fight on his own, but sometimes left hand can use supernatural abilities totally independent of D. It also talks and often makes sarcastic remarks, so it's like one of those guns from High on Life.
I call it my glob shot. It comes out of my...
Left hand can also absorb elements, shoot out an elemental blast, gain information from people, consume souls, and it can even absorb energy from something like a lightning bolt or the explosion of a nuclear bomb. D usually does most of the fighting on his own though. His physical strength is incredible. He has demonstrated such feats as cutting a mountain range in half and throwing his sword several thousand miles. He was also able to land on his feet after being thrown at the speed of light or just below it. He can tear military tanks apart like wet cardboard, although ripping a tank in half isn't much if you've cut a mountain in two. D is strong, but what about speed? D can move faster than the speed of sound, but has dodged multiple forms of attack that were at the speed of light or just below it. He dodged a shot from a cannon that was on Mars that could shoot projectiles at close to the speed of light. He has also dodged lightning bolts and smacked shotgun pellets out of the air fired at point-blank range. D also has supernatural abilities like telepathy, reading minds, and telekinesis. Being a Dhampir, he can drink his own blood and this temporarily turns him into a full vampire, strengthening his physical strength, speed, and powers even further. D has extensive magic abilities. He is able to summon spirits and channel good and evil magic since he's a Dhampir. One form of magic he has is blood manipulation. This allows him to do things like make weapons from his blood. Left hand has also been seen doing this. D can create something called a blood sphere. This ball of blood about the size of a coin is very powerful. It can absorb all incoming enemy attacks and require someone to sacrifice their life to destroy it. As if his abilities weren't strong enough, D can alter reality itself. He can cut through space and time, creating a dimensional rift. He can also basically cut through what is someone's life force. Because reality bends around D and his sword, it's impossible for other reality warpers to erase him from time. To go along with all of his already insane abilities, D can take a crazy amount of damage and his healing is top notch. He was ripped into pieces and then ripped into more pieces and then eaten by a group of 5 vampires. And guess what happened next? He burst out of their heads, killing them all, and reformed like nothing happened. He has been hit by creatures strong enough to smash mountains and barely been hurt. If some kind of supernatural does manage to kill D, he can resurrect himself. He has done this on multiple occasions and in different manners. He's even revived himself without the help of his left hand ability. He grows perpetually stronger and stronger, so his power is literally limitless considering he's immortal. Dio is insanely strong and can stop time, but D can move as fast as or close to the speed of light and can alter reality, so I think he could get around Dio's vampiric and stand abilities. D isn't considered a universal threat for nothing. It's gonna be pretty hard to top this one, but let's see who we have at the number 1 spot.
No, what is this thing that's been awakened?
It's death. Death has been awakened.
The strongest vampire from an animated series is Alucard from the Helsing series. Alucard is Dracula backwards, similar to the Castlevania series and many others. A lot of people thought the inspiration for this Alucard's name was the one from Castlevania, but that turned out to not be true. Alucard is around 600 years old and is gone by many names, including Vlad the Impaler. He is known as a true vampire, a demon. He usually appears as a slender but large human standing at 6'6" with red eyes, but he has stated multiple times that he can appear as whatever he wishes. He even sometimes appears as he did as Vlad, looking much older with a beard and mustache. He can shapeshift into many things, including countless human forms, a child, bats, a dark cloud with eyes everywhere, or a mist. And when he's a mist, physical attacks cannot harm him. He drinks blood and can absorb thousands of bodies worth of blood through his body, but he can also go a long time without it. In Helsing Ultimate, he said he went 30 years without blood, and he was fighting almost that entire time.
A devil! You! Dracula!
Alucard is a sadistic killer. He never finishes off an enemy quickly. He would rather embarrass them and make them feel weak before utterly destroying them. He sometimes lets enemies kill him just to come back to life to scare them. That said, he does have a great respect for humans, especially those that have lived to an old age and are willing to face death, because he was not. Alucard is a weapon of the Helsing organization, a group that hunts down dangerous vampires and other supernatural creatures. Alucard pledged allegiance to the family that leads the organization and will do anything they command, referring to the leader as Master. They managed to hunt him down and were going to kill him, but decided that he was too useful to fight the darkness, and he ended up liking the idea, so now he hunts vampires, which he hates anyway. Alucard is so powerful that his powers are locked under a kind of spell that has 6 levels. He can unlock his own powers from level 6, which is the lowest, all the way up to level 1, which is the second highest. He usually gets permission from the Helsing organization in dire situations to unlock his full power, level 0. To unlock this power, he recites the following phrase: "Here I stand, the bird of Hermes, eating my own wings to keep myself tame." When he says this, we see a coffin unlocking with some magical symbols on it, as if his full power is literally sealed away.
Here standeth the bird of Hermes, eating mine own wings!
After reaching his full power, he turns into a sea of blood. A member of the Helsing family says this: "Blood is the true face of the vampire Alucard, for blood is the currency of the soul." He is basically a god at this level. He drops into the middle of a battlefield, and guess who wins? When Alucard drinks people's blood, he absorbs their souls. It's speculated that he has millions trapped inside him, and at one time possibly had a lot more. In order to kill Alucard, you would have to kill him over and over until all of the souls were expended. He can also summon these souls to fight for him. He summons entire armies that he has wiped out to fight on his behalf, even twisted demonic versions of Wallachian soldiers.
You consumed them! Your own soldiers! Your own subjects!
He summons so many souls that it fills the city like a flood, killing anything in its path. People have speculated that he could easily wipe out everyone on Earth. He can also use the people he has absorbed like puppets and utilize their special abilities like the card throwing of Tubal-Cain. He has cards that cut like Oddjob's hat. In this battle, Alucard killed 1,000 Nazi vampire soldiers, 3,000 zealots from the Knights Crusade, the Major's men, the very strong Father Anderson, and another boss guy who has these crazy cyberpunk mono wires that has trained for 50 years just to kill Alucard. Although he's very strong, he also likes to use these pistols. The Silver Cross of Manchester Cathedral was melted down to create the bullets for these guns, so they drop vampires like a bad habit. His physical strength is unmatched by other vampires in the Helsing series, and depending on which level he's at, it makes him significantly stronger. Alucard has quite the arsenal of abilities even in his lower forms. He can become intangible and walk through solid walls. Teleportation, although it's not clear how far he can teleport, and telekinesis, able to easily throw humans or vampires around like ragdolls. He's also shown a limited ability to control the weather or at least create fog. Alucard can also seemingly defy gravity. Similar to Dracula from Van Helsing, he's able to walk up walls. He is extremely hard to kill. Any small wound heals almost instantly, and even if you cut off his arms or legs, cut him in half, blow him up, he just instantly forms back together. He isn't weak to holy objects, silver, or garlic. He can even walk in the sun. Seemingly the only way to kill him is to stake him in the heart, but even that's not a guarantee. Like I said earlier, he often lets enemies kill him or destroy his body just for fun to mess with them. People often refer to him as a true immortal, but even Alucard says there's no such thing as a true immortal, meaning there's always some way to kill everything. There's one other ability that sets Alucard apart from these other vampires. After he absorbed Professor Schrödinger, he was temporarily defeated. I will quote the Major because it's the easiest way to explain what happened. By drinking Schrödinger's blood, Alucard has become the paradoxical cat. He is now shackled by infinite possibility. As long as he is self-aware, he is everywhere and nowhere. But that conundrum is now multiplied by the millions of lives and consciences within Alucard. He is no longer capable of recognizing himself. What does this mean? Alucard is gone. Not alive, dead, or undead. He has become abstraction. He is an imaginary number. I will try to explain without going into too much detail about a quantum mechanics paradox. Schrödinger's cat is a thought experiment that was created by a physicist, Erwin Schrödinger, in 1935 to illustrate the principles of quantum mechanics. Simply put, this paradox describes the idea that a cat inside a sealed box can be thought of as both alive and dead at the same time. Until you open the box, then it forces the cat to take one of two outcomes. Using this paradox, Alucard can think of himself as alive or dead, literally changing the state of his existence and being able to appear anywhere. He is lost in this non-existence for 30 years. When he finally returns, he says that in order to recognize himself again, he had to defeat all the other souls within him that were clouding his conscience. It turns out there was 3,424,867 souls left inside him. But since he technically defeated Schrödinger, he has changed. Alucard himself says he is everywhere and nowhere, meaning he is omnipresent. Before being absorbed by Alucard, the character Schrödinger had the ability to be anywhere, including other planes of existence and even in people's dreams. And now Alucard can do this too. People argue whether he's truly omnipresent, meaning he can literally be everywhere at once. Alucard is more like he can appear anywhere he wants, but still insanely powerful. He doesn't even need those millions of souls as a layer of protection anymore, because even if you killed him, he could just come back to life. Because at this point, he exists because he believes he does. And I mean, even before gaining this ability, at the end of the series, the only way for someone to try and defeat him was to trick him into thinking he doesn't exist. Pretty big backfire considering he basically made Alucard invincible.
I have returned here, but I'm also always nowhere. It's a conundrum.
I know I've been mentioning vampires and angels a lot, but all of Alucard's eyes remind me of the description of seraphim angels, which also mentions them having thousands of eyes. He's also omnipresent and says the whole thing about being the bird of Hermes, so I'm never going to be able to get this vampire angel stuff out of my head now. That's my video on the top 5 strongest vampires from animated series. In my opinion, of course. I did my best to weigh their abilities objectively. The only one of these shows that I've covered before was Castlevania. I hope you enjoyed, and definitely let me know if you agree with my ranking or disagree. I always love reading through the comments to see your opinions, especially on a topic like this. Let me know if there's any other movies or TV shows you want me to cover. I'm also thinking about doing a top 5 strongest werewolves video eventually, so let me know if you'd like to see that. I'm currently working on a video about the Being Human TV show. Thanks so much to my members Roderick, Steven556, and Owen Wildish for supporting the channel. You guys are awesome and I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, leave a like. And if you haven't, maybe hit that subscribe button. It helps out a lot. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.